Hello, good afternoon. My name is Daniel. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're all having a good Friday. Today, I want to talk to you about my April TBR. I say TBR, but this is putting the term very loosely. It's going to be a pile of possibilities, as other channels have been saying. I haven't been too good at keeping with a strict TBR. I think at heart, I'm just a mood reader. And so I pick things up when I'm most inclined to make the most of them. And I think that's probably a good thing overall. But it's not really great for scheduling like this. But this is sort of what I hope to get through. I'm certainly not going to get through this entire list, just looking at it. But and also because it's also encompassing some items that I had on my previous TBR that I still really want to get to. I've just been sort of adding things willy nilly, and it's throwing everything off. So I'm going to start with the stuff that you may have seen on my previous TBR, things I'm still really highly interested in getting to, but haven't just yet. The first one is the 1972 annual World's Best SF. This is just a collection of science fiction stories gathered by Donald Wollheim, and I have a whole stack of these that I still haven't gotten through. So I'm going to start at the oldest volume I have and work my way through it. So I'm actually pretty excited about these, but I just haven't gotten to them yet. Also, things I really want to read soon is The Autopsy by Michael Shea. I talked about it last month, but this is mainly my intro to this was through the show Cabinet of Curiosities, hosted by Guillermo del Toro. And Michael Shea had like the most Lovecraftian story in that series, which was called The Autopsy, and I immediately wanted to pick up a book around that time. Haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I am very hopeful. Also, another author I have only read a little bit of, but that's only because he's only put a little bit out. It's Michael Shea. This is Reassuring Tales. This includes a short story, well, a novella really, called The Events at Poroth Farm, which sort of led into a bigger novel that he wrote called The Ceremonies, which covers the same ground. But I really liked his book, Dark Gods, where it was like 4 short stories or novellas put together in one volume. It was really well written, so I want to read more of his stuff. So Reassuring Tales is still high on my list. I didn't get to this yet, but this is Terror in the Mind of God by Mark Juergensmeyer. It's more of a textbook, I think, about like religious violence, particularly in the Middle East. Still applicable to today, and something that's just intimidated me, but I really want to get to it, and that's House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. Yeah, Danielewski. This is a book that's intimidating because it's not like a linear read. You have like sort of notes within notes. There's like a few different narratives that are like weaving together. Effectively, it's just about a house that is like non-Euclidean. It's bigger on the inside than the outside, and there's like sort of a almost like a horror-like mystery to it. But from what I hear, it's more of a parody of scholarship. Don't know, but this is something that's been interesting, but it's also just intimidating because it's not something you can just sit down and read and just understand. So it's kind of notorious, but I really want to get to it. So I live in Northeast Ohio, and we are currently about to experience a total eclipse, which hasn't happened here in 200 years or so. My timeline's a little funky from back then, but I was very young. So I want to sort of do a little reading that sort of centralizes around an eclipse. And the first thing that came to mind is the comic book Berserk, which is one of my favorite comics. But about, if you know anything about the story, it's about a swordsman who encounters a lot of horrific things growing up. And then there's a huge flashback sequence called The Golden Age, which is an arc in the comic that like shows him in his pre-demon hunting days up and until a very fateful eclipse happens. And that's about as far as I'm going to go spoiling that. But that, with these deluxe editions, that's about 4 volumes. Really, it's a little bit of the 5th volume as well, that where the major eclipse happens. This might seem like a lot, but I know this story like the back of my hand. Read it over and over again. So I just want to read through the Golden Age arc and get through the eclipse because I think it'd be fun. And my little necklace here plays a role in that eclipse that happens, but it's a really dark comic. So if you don't like violence, blood, and more intimate violence, if that's something you can't handle, don't pick it up. But it's very popular. The author sadly passed away before the books ever finished. So there's about 14 of these volumes, and I have most of them, but I want to revisit it. This seems like a good opportunity to do so. So that is what I will do. Oh, that's heavy. Some other books that you haven't seen yet, possibly. Something I want to read, and I don't know what inspired me to want to read this, but it's jumped to the front of my list, and I have no explanation for it, which sometimes those can be the best or the worst books that you read. So I want to read Trilby by George du Maurier. That's the grandfather of Daphne du Maurier, the author of Rebecca. It was popular back in the day, and I want to read it, so I will, because it's free. It's a public domain book. You can pick it up at the cost of nothing other than your time. Another book I want to read is History of English Literature. This is the 1956 edition, and it's just a retrospective on English literature throughout the time. So you have the Victorian era, the novel, drama before Shakespeare, post-Shakespeare, tradition and experiment, and whatnot. This is a book I got real cheap at a used bookstore, and it was just interesting to me, so why not? Another book that I've been hankering to read, and I haven't been able to because I haven't owned it for a bit. I was doing the Read What You Own challenge, where I was trying to read 100 books that I previously owned before buying any more. I crashed and burned most recently on that. I got through 25 books, but almost immediately after finishing that challenge, I picked up a copy of City by Clifford D. Simak. A lot of people have been reading this on other booktube channels, and I wanted to. It's a science fiction story about, like, after human beings are gone, the world, I guess, is run by dogs and robots. So awesome. This is, I think, Michael K. Vaughan's one of his favorite science fiction stories. So that's high praise on this book, and he and others recently read this. So I want to as well. Apparently it's a classic in science fiction literature, and I am not waiting until the event Rocket Summer to read it. I picked it up almost immediately. I got a good copy of it, and I'm going to go off to the races. That is almost assuredly something I'm going to read. I'm probably also going to finish this, which is The Great Book of Amber. This is 10 books in one. I've read the first 5. The story of Amber kind of takes place in 2 cycles. The first cycle is the Corwin cycle, which I finished last month, and it features the character of Corwin. The second cycle features the character of Merlin, who is his son, and this is like a multiversal type of fantasy story where everything that is a shadow of a place called Amber, which is like this city-state, and I guess the hub of reality, and everything around it is just like this great wheel where, like, things get more and more off the further away you get from the hub of the wheel down the spokes. I don't know why I'm using this metaphor, but I'm just going with it. But this is about a family who they can sort of use magical powers to just go from reality to reality and go into the shadows of Amber, as they call them. So I'm probably going to end up reading the whole Merlin cycle all at once, so the last 5 books of this. I'm looking forward to it because the first cycle was really good. There are a few events that are happening in the month. One is an ongoing thing I'm doing throughout the year, and that is to read 24 banned books in the year 2024. I don't have a second book picked out for this yet. I've been trying to do like 2 a month, but right now I'm gonna read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This is gonna be a reread. It's a fantastic book. That is the temperature at which paper burns, and therefore books burn. It's a story about book burning. There's another new event hosted by Roy at Roy Reads Anything, and that is Giant April, where we try to read books about giant apes and possibly other kaiju. Um, I was really trying to figure out how to do this when I was on my challenge because I don't own any books about giant apes, and I still don't. So if I pick something up later, I'll probably read that. But I did grab a periodical, and that is King Kong versus Godzilla in anticipation of the movie. I think that's coming out today. Good Friday. I don't know. I know someone who's seen an early release of it, but I think this movie came out today. The second King Kong and Godzilla crossover. I don't know, but I'll probably watch it. But I haven't seen the last one. I think I'm just married to the original one in the 1930s. I don't remember when it was released. Again, I was way too young, but I had the DVD of it. Well, I had it on VHS, and then I got a DVD copy of it of King Kong versus Godzilla, and that might have been the first Kong movie I've ever seen as well. Um, I when I think of like the story of Kong, you know how they like drug him up and take him to New York City and whatnot. I think of the scenes from Kong versus Godzilla where he's fighting this giant octopus, and then like they just give him this berry juice and he falls asleep, and they bring him over because Godzilla's running throughout. I can't remember in the American version if it was Tokyo. In the American version, they sort of splice in like a bunch of news anchor stories that aren't in like the original Japanese Kong versus Godzilla. So I don't really remember off the top of my head where they meet up. I think it's New York, but it might be Tokyo. I just don't remember. But it's a really good time. I've always been fond of that, and then some of the older King Kong movies. I've never seen the Peter Jackson one, so this might be a good opportunity to do that as well. But yep, I picked up this periodical, like I said. But also, I discovered in my pile, while I didn't have any books about giant apes, there was a giant ape in this, which is The War That Time Forgot. This was, I think, an old DC comic. This is just some black and white reprint. But I'm like, surely if there's giant dinosaurs that are fighting the U.S. Army, surely in one of these stories there has to be a giant ape. And I found one, apparently some great white giant ape. So I'll at least read this story, if not the entire volume here. Kind of got behind in my comic reading. I'm trying to read all of the 60s Marvel superhero comics, but I really got sidetracked trying to get through the Incredible Hulk, who I guess is just, his stories are just boring to me. And rather than just like, doing the logical thing and going to the next story, I just stopped reading it and picked up different things other than Marvel comics. So I'll get back to that, but I'm not going to establish like a TBR with those. Likely I'll have a month where I'm just going to have to dash through a whole bunch of these epic collections. But right now, I just need to get through Hulk because, man, he was just a weird character back in the day. There's another event which is new as well by various booktube hosts who I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe it's everyone who was part of Holmes is Where the Heart Is. They're doing a spring event called Spring into Adventure, where they're trying to read adventure stories, and they do have like a weekly breakdown of what you're supposed to read. I'm not going to do the whole like weekly event like I did for Holmes is Where the Heart Is, but I will read some stories from this. Not all, mind you, but this is the big book of event. English. I need to stop and breathe. This is the big book of adventure, which is leaving me breathless. This is edited by Otto Penzler. I've read a few of his books. I read the Zombies of the big books that are put out by Black Lizard Press. I think that's what they're called. It's this black lizard on the corner, but didn't say on the side for some reason. Yes. Black Lizard is the name of the company, and they have a whole bunch of big books. Most of them are edited by Otto Penzler, who is a really good eye for a good story. So I read Zombie, Zombie, Zombies. I read the Big Book of Christmas Mysteries, and I think that was it last year. I still have the Big Book of Pulps and the well, I have a few over there, but the Big Book of Adventure is the one I'm going to be reading from. Possibly I'll read them all, but like this is a big chunker and these are double columns, so it's not like it's going to be an easy reading experience. But mostly this is a bunch of pulps. We have it broken up by category, so there's swords and sorcery, which is excellent because I'm always into that. Megalomania Rules, Man versus Nature, Island Paradise, Sand and Sun, Something Feels Funny, Go West Young Man, Future Shock, I Spy, Yellow Peril, could get into trouble with that one, and In Darkest Africa. So just a whole bunch of just cool cool adventure stories. So I'll at least be dipping my toe into this, if not reading the whole thing. Since this is an event called Spring into Adventure, I'm going to start reading this book. It doesn't mean I have to land in adventure and stick the landing. Beyond that, that is my tentative list for the month, but something I wanted to start doing anyway, and I'm starting a little late in the year, but I want to reread all of Shakespeare this year. I was, among other things, I was a theater major in college, so I have a lot of familiarity with these. I've been in some of these plays, but it's been a while since I've given them all a good reread. So I think over the course of the year, in my mind, I always associate spring with Shakespeare, and I think that's because some of the favorite plays that I've seen of Shakespeare have been put on in like an outdoor theater in our area. So I just think of like rich foliage, and especially for like shows like The Tempest, which is the one I really remember. Which I don't know why in this particular collection they start with The Tempest, which I believe chronologically was supposed to be Shakespeare's final play. But I think they're doing all of the comedies in the front and all of the tragedies in the back. So this is probably not going to be the reading order in which I do these because that'll get old. But I want to reread all of Shakespeare, and I think I'm just going to start this spring. So why not in April? So that is the final item. So there's a lot here. Am I going to get through it all? No, probably not. Things seem to happen. Sickness seems to come and go a lot in the household. I blame second graders. So, but that's it for me. What are you guys reading? Anything I'm forgetting to take part in? I can't do every BookTube event, but I like to know what's going on in the community. So let me know, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Enjoy your holiday if you celebrate.